So this talk is called The Boredom Solution. And let's get this out of the way right off the bat. Is this video going to reveal the complete solution to every form of boredom in every possible situation for every possible person? Of course not. But you knew that before you started the video. What I'm going to talk about is boredom as it's experienced by most of us at least some of the time in developed nations. And when I hear people talk about it, it's almost always in a context that this video fits. So I think, anyway. So I might go out on a limb and say that I'm going to talk about what is probably the biggest source of boredom for the people that I see and the people whose posts I read. And the solution I'm going to talk about is the most effective component that I've come up with in many years of dealing with this kind of thing in therapy. So you might well argue, am I really talking about something that's more than 50% of the boredom experience, or is it somewhat less? It might well be less, who knows? Let's read a post that I read from a young adult who describes themselves as a NEET. This is a person who is not in education, employment, or training. It's one of the terms for young adults who are kind of stuck at the transition from dependent adolescence to independent adulthood. So here's one who says, I am bored of being a hikikomori. This is the Japanese term for the phenomenon. Animation and webcomics aren't as much fun as it used to be. And here are two replies on that same thread. Same, games are dying for me. And the second, if you like video games and haven't played, fill in the name of the video game here, play it. It may not give you any answers, but you'll at least come out of it with different questions. Then there are some ideas further down in the thread about television shows, movies, and so on. The solution to your problem is to find this other thing in the same category over here. And this echoes what happens when people who are depressed or stalled out in their early adulthood talk about their boredom. The natural temptation is to look around for a form of entertainment that produces some real interest, and they're having a hard time finding one. Often the problem is something we can call receptive boredom. We can look at our lives through multiple lenses. Some of them help for certain situations, others, well, not so much. Here's one that I think can help. Take all of human experience and divide it into two categories, receptive and productive, in or out. We could also call it receptive or expressive. On the receptive side, you're being entertained by someone else's production. You're watching a movie other people made. You're playing a video game manufactured by a company somewhere, right? You're watching a television show about other people living their lives. Have you ever noticed, by the way, how seldom those people are shown watching television? Because that would be boring. Or they're never surfing the net to watch other people's videos or read other people's posts online. What about getting out and riding a roller coaster that someone else designed and built in an amusement park, a park specifically designed to amuse you, hence the name, which we might think of as combating boredom? I remember being in Los Angeles around a particular group of people. Literally everything they talked about was based on an experience that someone else had designed specifically to amuse them. Now, all of these are receptive situations. You sit there on the couch, there in front of the computer, there on the ride, wherever, and you experience sensations designed by other people to produce your reactions. And eventually, most people seem to adapt to this level of stimulation. It's like alcohol. The same amount just doesn't do it for anymore. You're building up receptive tolerance. And we go out looking for more potent alcohol or more involving experiences, also manufactured by other people. On the other side is productive. Now, I'm not hugely happy with that word because it has a kind of guilt-inducing monetary sound to it. You should be more productive. What I mean by it is something where you are producing the experience or contributing something concrete rather than consuming the productions of other people. This might involve building something or growing something, working at something, volunteering for something, helping someone else achieve their goals, getting to the top of a mountain by walking up it, actually learning something by expending effort, not just by watching YouTube videos, expanding our skills, whether that's by learning to bake or kayak or do accounting or rock climb or swim, whatever. The productive side is about engaging with the world rather than watching it or receiving what the world produces. Now, if you think about this for more than 2 minutes, you can start arguing with the division. What counts as productive and what counts as receptive? You go out and you hike part of the Trans-Canada Trail, which other people build. What's that? Receptive or productive? You get a group of friends together to go skiing, where a machine that other people built pulls you to the top of the hill. What's that? Well, really, it's not so much of a dichotomy, in or out. It's more of a continuum, right? You building a house with your own hands out of wood you grew and cut down is pretty much all productive. Sitting on a couch watching Netflix, that's pretty much all receptive. Some things in the middle are a little more arguable. But if you really listen when people talk about boredom, they're most often focused on the receptive side. Hence the term receptive boredom. I look around for better TV shows, more entertaining movies, more involving video games, and I can't find them. The natural tendency is to look harder for the same kind of thing. The solution in this case is to look at your balance between receptive and productive or expressive activity. If you're overbalanced on the receptive side, you're not likely to cure the boredom by finding another receptive thing to do. What you're starving for is something on the expressive or productive side. That's more often where the solution lies. It's not so much, where can I find something more interesting? It's more, what can I involve myself in that's useful or productive or challenging or contributory or expressive? The problem with it is that present boredom kills off anticipatory interest. So if you're bored and you think, I could go out with this friend, or I don't know, try this volunteer work, or take that course, or build this birdhouse or something. What's that feel like? It feels like nothing. It will seem like the dullest thing possible. It won't have any more appeal than those receptive activities that you've already exhausted. So that can't be the test. You actually have to do it. And figuring out what might eventually pay off for you emotionally is more of an intellectual task than an instinctive one. Asking, what do I feel like, gets you nowhere. What would objectively be a good idea? That's a better question. My own reply to the individual I talked about earlier focused on the validity of boredom. When you're anxious, you should often be suspicious. There may not be any dangers around. When you feel despair, be suspicious. There may be hope. But when you feel bored, trust it. You really are. When someone describes a life filled with receptive ways to pass the time, and they feel bored, there may not be anything going wrong. The boredom isn't a misfire. It's telling you something important. It's saying, get out there, do something different. Many of the young adults I've seen who say they often feel bored describe their lives to me. And I often think, whoa, I'd be bored too. I'd be climbing the walls. And I'm old. If I was living that life and in my 20s, it would be unbearable. It's possible that your boredom isn't a problem. It's your life calling out to you. Sometimes you need to listen. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in videos like this, please click subscribe. You can also find my books in bookstores and at online booksellers. See you again.